Nothing will crush a real estate investor's spirit like landlord stress. The difference between being successful and miserable in managing properties is education. Welcome to Landlord University, where landlords learn. Landlord University is recorded from inside the RentPrep office, where Stephen White and Jeff Pearson share the lessons learned from working with some of the most successful landlords.
Welcome to Landlord University Night School. I'm Jeff Pearson. I'm here with my co-host, Stephen White. Hello, Stephen. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, good, Jeff. Good to be here. We're talking about Google tools today. And the idea came just from seeing so many landlords out there using Google effectively. And don't get me wrong, you could use other free tools that are available, but Google has such a vast, robust suite of tools, and 99% of them are free, and they're very user-friendly, easy to use. So just for that sake alone, we're going to focus on the specifically the Google tools that are available out there and how landlords are using them to help streamline their business and organize their business and make things much easier for themselves.
Yeah, I think, when you think of the different tools that you can get from other places, you can get Microsoft, because they've got online, you can get your email and spreadsheets and different things like that. There are other places to do free online spreadsheets, but when it comes to everything being put together in one package that works well together, You're right. Google is the best place to do it. And so let's talk a little bit about the tools that are available and how landlords can use those in their business.
Yeah. So the most common thing that I see whenever a landlord signs up for an account at RentPrep or opts in or whatever, what they're doing really well is they're able to organize each of their properties by making each of their properties have their own sort of Google account. So, for example, if their rental property was at 500 Main Street, their Google email address would be 500 Main Street at google.com. or gmail.com, I'm sorry. That way, anything that they get from that email account, they know it's related to that property. Also, it makes it very easy. I know we've talked about this before in the podcast. It makes it very easy for the tenant to remember what the contact information is. So if your primary source of communication, or if you tell the tenant, I prefer to communicate with email. If you have any issues or anything comes up, shoot me an email. Immediately, when you get an email in your inbox and it's coming from 500 Main Street at Gmail into that, or from that folder, that it's specifically for that property. And so it makes organizing your properties very easy in that way. Another really, really useful tool is Google Voice. I personally don't have a whole lot of experience with Google Voice. Have you ever set up a Google Voice account or a messaging?
I have. In fact, I set up a Google Voice account about 4 years ago when I eliminated my landline at home, just so that we had a single common phone number to use for the family.
Now, how does that work? Does it have to be, is it per account, or is it one number that's your number, or can you have multiple numbers if you wanted to separate it by properties like they're doing for the Google Gmail accounts?
Essentially, you can have one phone number for each Gmail account.
Okay.
So if you have 3 properties and you have a Gmail account for each property, 123 Main Street, 125 Main Street, and 127 Main Street, each one of those could have a different phone number. And what you're able to do with Google Voice is you can go in and tell it. You can change it at any time, but you can tell it, I want every phone call to go to voicemail, or I want every phone call to be forwarded to my cell phone or my home line. Wherever you want that call to be forwarded, it will forward the call to that. And you could even, I'm trying to think. Seems to me there are times you can say from 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock. But don't quote me on that. For some reason, I'm not sure. There are some VoIP systems that allow you to do that, business systems, and I'm drawing a blank on whether Google Voice does. But what it does allow you to, you can actually tell it to forward to 2 different numbers at the same time. So you could say, forward it to my cell phone and to my home phone, and whichever one picks up is the one that takes the call. So there are a lot of really interesting things that you can do with it. And the simple thing is to just always have it go to voicemail.
Right.
And it will send you an email with a transcription of that voicemail. It's a computerized transcription.
Mhm.
but you generally get enough of the sense of what's on that call.
Right.
And it'll send you an email, and even on your phone, you can listen to the voicemail through the email,
Right.
or you can just try to read that computer interpretation of it.
It's pretty perfect because you could probably change those settings anytime. So,
Yes.
if let's say that you ended up renting the property, you sign the lease, and every landlord deals with this. You're still getting those leftover phone calls. People are still seeing an old ad or on Craigslist, they're going way deep or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still calling and bugging you, and you don't want to take those calls anymore. So I could see just logging into your Google account, deactivating that or closing it down or having it go straight to voicemail or something like that so that you're not bothered by it constantly. And
Exactly.
yeah, you can manipulate that as you go. So you can
That's right.
change that if the place becomes vacant again. All right, well, I'll go and change my settings. Now I want all the phone calls forwarded to me immediately. So I'm in sales mode, marketing mode. If somebody makes a call, I want to be able to answer it and tell them about the property.
Yes. And you're right. You can use that just for advertising purposes. That way you can feel free to put your phone number on anything you want to, because it's not your real phone number.
Right.
And then once you have a tenant in place, you give them your real contact information, your cell phone or home line or whatever you want to give them,
Right.
and you're set to go. Theoretically, set up one Google Voice account for all of your tenants.
Mhm.
You go to your personal Gmail account, set up a Google Voice account, and give that to your tenants. So you're not even giving them your real cell
Right.
phone number. Rather, you're giving them a common Google Voice number. So you have a Google Voice number that you use for advertising, and it could be a different one for each property. And then you have a different Google Voice number that your tenants contact you on, and then they don't have your cell phone number. And that gives you the opportunity, again, you can just go into Google Voice and say, I don't want to hear from my tenants. I don't want to have to answer the phone.
Right.
It's the weekend. I'm going on vacation. You can change it to go straight to voicemail. But again, you'll get the emails right away.
Right.
And so if somebody says, the hot water heater is leaking, you'll see that in the email.
Right.
And you can address that right away. And again, if you have trained your tenants properly, they know if the hot water heater is leaking, they should call your emergency contact for that anyways.
Right. Yeah. And, for the landlords that want to, keep that distance and keep it professional, just like at work, I can't imagine somebody, a landlord RentPrep client calling in and me saying, well, here, take my cell phone number in case you need me.
Right.
I want them to have the office number, obviously. So same concept, it's one more step to taking the personal element out of it, treating it like a business. Here's my business phone number, right? So here's my number in case you need to contact me for anything. And that way, and I definitely know a lot of landlords have issues with tenants having a lot of their personal information. I have a lot of landlords that don't want the tenants to know where they live.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want them to have their personal emails. They certainly don't want them to have their phone numbers. You never know. I mean,
exactly.
There's really, I hate to paint this horror picture of terrible tenants, but we read in the news stories and we know what's going on, and you just never know who you're dealing with, and they may come across as the most, the safest, most reasonable person, but we know that 2 months down the road things can turn horribly wrong, and you don't want to have somebody who's frustrated, mad at you, or in a weird place. Now they have all your personal information. They know where you live. They can get in touch with you, whatever it is. It's always good to keep that arm's distance, and keep it professional, keep it business-like. And Google definitely helps you do that with all the different tools and options they have. And one of the things we never talked about, which I love, is Chrome. I love the ability to log into any browser, whether it be my phone, home computer, my laptop, my office computer. I can log into Chrome. I could pick up any browser session where I left off. So it's not like I close a window here at the office and I go home to work on something and I got to go to the internet, open it back up, find the website that I was at, or I used to email myself the link, the URL, which
I
seems so
did that.
crazy. Yeah, which seems crazy now. Now you could just log into your Chrome account, or you're already logged in instantly, and you got your browser session right there. The shared docs,
Well,
Google
I think
Drive.
Google Docs is really a key tool for landlords. And there are so many ways that we can use Google Docs and Google Drive that people really need to pay attention to. First and foremost, when you have contracts and different documents, you want to upload those into Google Docs. If you're going to create them, we would use Excel or Microsoft Word. You can create those right in Google Docs if you want, or you can upload them from a Microsoft Office product. But the thing is, you're storing them online in the cloud, which to me is a good thing because it's available to you anywhere. Like you said, you can work on it at the office, you can work on it at home, you can work on it on your phone, anywhere you want to. But it gives you that broad storage. And so you can have standard templates that you keep online for all of the documents you want, whether it's an application or a lease agreement, whatever it is you want to have, any communication you have. If you send regular communication to your tenants, you send them an email every spring about suggested things for them to do outside to take care of the property, or winterizing the property and letting them know, hey, I'm going to be doing these winterizing projects for you. I'd like you to schedule a time for me. When is a good time to meet with you? But at the same time, here are a few things that I won't be doing, but I would suggest would be helpful and beneficial to you. And you could create that letter and put it in an email folder that is there. It's emails that you want to send out more than once, and you can save those and then just copy them in and send them out. So you can do that. You can keep an Excel spreadsheet with all of your expenses. I mean, certainly you can use Quicken or some other type of product to manage your expenses, but very often you just need a simple spreadsheet to manage your income and your expenses for your property, and that's going to give you everything you need. You can do that in Google Drive. You can have a Google Drive account for each one of those email addresses that you've created. And what I like to do, because I keep a number of different accounts that I use, and so I have one for Landlord University, I have one for Mentor Impact, and I have a personal one. And then with a nonprofit organization I work with, I have different accounts for each of those. And what I do is I create a folder, and then I share that folder to each of my other accounts. So if I happen to be signed into my personal email account and I go to Google Drive, if I want to look at my Landlord University stuff, I just click on my Landlord University folder. And even though I'm not signed into my Landlord University account, I can see everything in the folder, and anything I save into that folder shows up on that drive. So you can save your folders from each of those accounts to all of your other accounts, or just the one main one that you sign into. And then when you're in that folder, anything you do gets shared back to the other ones, but they get saved separately. Or you could just save all of your documents in one account, just use one account and not be crazy like me. Let's say you use your personal account, or you create an account just for your properties, and in that account, you can create separate folders. The other thing you can do with Google Drive is when you take pictures. So you go in and you do your inspection with a new tenant, and you have your inspection document that you fill out, and then you take pictures or even video when you do the walkthrough with the new tenant. When you're done with that, upload all of that to Google Drive. And
that's perfect.
You have it online. You can see it anywhere, anytime. And any of the pictures that you take for marketing, save those to Google Drive. I would suggest saving them as files in Google Drive. You could theoretically upload those to the Photos account, but what happens when you do that is it compresses those files significantly. So I would upload them as files to your Google Drive account, and then they would just be a file. So you take a picture, you upload it to your file. I think you've got at least 15 gigabytes of storage in each account. That's one of the reasons for having separate accounts. So you take all of your documents and all of your pictures and videos and upload them to the account for that particular property. But again, everything you get for that property, every document, scan it and upload it, and then it's there. It's available to you anytime you want. It's better than a filing cabinet because you can get to it whether you're at home, at the office, on vacation, wherever you happen to be and have internet access, you can get to it.
Yeah.
And it really helps a lot to have that stuff organized that way. And again, you can create folders and everything just like you do in a normal on your computer. That's stuff that's saved to your desktop, but it's backed up. And I don't think it's of such security concern that you have to worry about it being some type of a private thing or whatever. Letting Google have access to it, and I don't think they can actually see it, but
Right.
I don't think it's that level of a privacy issue that I don't think anybody should be that concerned about it.
Yeah, and especially in the wake of iCloud, problems that people have been having with the data breaches and everything else. The stuff that the stuff that you're saving in Google is not. You're not saving your tenants' credit card numbers. You're not
No.
saving you're not typing out a spreadsheet of social security numbers. Hopefully.
Well, I would suggest uploading a copy of their application.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you upload a copy of the application, then you've got it in in an attachment in there.
Right. But there are a couple of things about that. Fortunately, I haven't heard of any major Google problems, but you want to be sure when you create an account, you set up two-factor authentication, and Google is pretty much set up to do that now, kind of forces you to do it, but make it so that if you want to change your password, that you have to get an email or a text from Google. The text to your phone is great. You tell them what your phone number is. If you want to change your password, they have to text you a 4-digit code. You enter that code, and then it lets you change your password. Because the big thing you don't want is somebody getting access to your account, changing the password and contact information, and then you can't get to it.
Right.
And they can figure out what the name of your dog is so they can get into your account. Well, you can't do that with two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication basically means send me an email and send me a text on my phone. And as long as you have access to your phone, to that phone number, you can get it. So that's a great security measure that I think anybody should do when they're dealing with Google.
Right.
But storing all this information makes things much simpler.
And then the ability to work with a team. We use Google Docs and spreadsheets on every single Landlord University podcast. I've got mine open in front of me right now. I know that yours is open
as well. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know yours is open because I get a little notification saying I've got one other viewer on the spreadsheet, and I can actually even see what cell you're in right now.
That's right.
And when you make a change, you move to that next cell, and it instantly pops up on my side. So I could see in real time what you're working on. And anybody, especially if you're an investor, that's huge to be able to share spreadsheets and numbers. Or if you're working with a property management company, that's going to be a huge convenience for everybody to be able to just pick and choose who you want to share the file with. And the nice thing is you could choose each individual file, what you want to share and who you want to share it with. So your accountant can have access to your spreadsheet for the numbers. Your plumber can have access to your spreadsheet for addresses or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
And so it's a great way to organize and get people literally on the same page, working, as a team collaboratively. So it's a great collaborative tool too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can use your imagination for the things that you can do. You could take a picture of a key and upload it to your Google account. And if you need to make a copy, you could take that picture to a locksmith and they could create a key for you.
Is that true?
Sure.
Can they make a copy of a key from a picture?
Absolutely.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea, actually. So yeah, I had no idea. Yeah, that is a really good idea. Take a picture of the key with each property, and you have that all, always right there. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm. In fact, talking about keys, that's a topic we can talk about in one of our future episodes.
Yeah, for
there
sure.
are some things you can do with keys that make lives a lot easier. But as far as Google, if any of our listeners have any thoughts or ideas or questions about how to use Google for their landlord business, definitely reach out to us and let us know. We'd love to answer any questions, or if you have some thoughts about it that you think we should share, we'd love to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how other people are using it. Like I said, it's such a common thing. I know that there's ideas out there that we haven't thought of, and share them for the benefit of all the landlords of what's working for you and what's successful.
Exactly. Well, Stephen, I think we should wrap up this evening, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow evening.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to Landlord University, and remember to visit rentprep.com/landlordu to see show notes and access free resources like forms and guides. And be sure to check out Jeff Pearson hosting his own hit podcast at thementorimpact.com.